I want to appreciate first your convening this important hearing. It's important to me as well, and it should be important to all Americans and all freedom-loving people. And I thank our witnesses for being with us to give us information. Poland and Hungary are critical allies for the United States, but the trends we are seeing towards anti-democratic behavior are a cause for concern. We count on our allies in Europe to uphold democracy. The price to pay of a weak, illiberal Europe, as we know from its dark past, is too great. I have, as the chair, visited both Poland and Hungary, and I enjoyed the history, the culture in both countries. But I was concerned, particularly in Hungary, where we met with NGOs that told us that they did not have opportunities to express themselves and to meet properly, that the press was limited in its abilities to have a freedom of the press, that there were, I visited a synagogue, and though we were told that the relations with the Jewish population was good, the people at the synagogue said it was not so good. In fact, they were concerned. We saw lots of posters at the time of George Soros, and George Soros is more than a Jewish person. He's an individual human being, and indeed they could have had posters up about George Soros because he was a individual who was the Hungarian government did not like because of the university that he helped fund, which is, in my opinion, from what I visited, was an outstanding university, allowing people to study and learn in a liberal context of the arts and all perspectives. But George Soros could have been up there because he was Jewish, and he could have been a trope and a symbol of anti-Semitism in the country. And unfortunately, I think that's what it was. His pictures were everywhere. He was put up as an enemy of the state and an enemy of the party. The party and the government in Hungary, as I understand it, controls the media. And so they don't have particularly free elections because even if people can vote fairly, and I'm not sure about that, but the people get one side from the media, and that's not fair either. So there are a lot of concerns raised there, and I have concerns with Poland and their efforts to change the judiciary, can discipline judges when they feel that their rulings have not been in keeping with the executive, violation of separation of powers, and an independent judiciary. So there are concerns we have with both these countries. During my time in Congress, and especially with the Helsinki Commission, I've consistently advocated for minority rights. In fact, I've done that in the 24 years as a state senator before I came to Congress, for the rights of the Jewish communities after the Holocaust, and the fundamental freedoms that underpin the OSCE, like freedom of media and freedom of expression. In Orban's Hungary, as I've discussed, so many of these fundamental freedoms are at risk, serious risk. I think his opponent in the coming election has basically said, I am not a crook. And there are questions about Mr. Orban's contracts with individuals. I think I put up, if I remember, was the maybe the electrical system or lights and whatever, but somebody had no experience whatsoever in that business, and they gave him a multi-million-dollar contract and made that man a multi-millionaire. Just being fair in this parceling out of government monies is the right thing to do. It's not happening in Hungary. There's no true democracy when the electoral system is stilted to benefit the ruling party, which it is, and the media is consolidated into single ownership that spouts the government narrative. The media's use of anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim rhetoric and propaganda by Hungarian officials compromises core OSCE values. Mr. Orban has cozied up to Vladimir Putin, and Orban risks doing such, pushing Hungary further away from its allies in the West. Mr. Putin is rarely on the side of transparency and freedom of expression and freedom of the press. He's an authoritarian leader as well. It's troubling that Hungary and Poland are floating with these autocratic and anti-democratic behaviors and palling around with the people who like that, especially with the pain of having lived behind the Iron Curtain, which is not far in the rearview mirror. We expect better of our allies in NATO and the EU. I'm looking forward to hearing an honest assessment of the situation from our witnesses and what the United States can do to support freedom and democracy in Central Europe. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Representative Cohen, appreciate the